All right. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, everyone. This is Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics and in proud partnership with UBA, United Bank for Africa. We do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 on this amazing channel, on this station. And, of course, you can listen to this same episode in case you missed it on any of our podcast channels. Yeah, so just go to any Nairametrics podcast channel, either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or even on YouTube. You can catch me right here in the studio taping this particular episode of Follow the Money. I know you guys are, some of you are probably at home enjoying the holiday. It's okay. It's Mohammed's birthday. Happy birthday to him. And of course, those of you who are on your way to work like us, I hope that we keep you company as we try to break down the stock market last week. A whole lot of stuff happened last week, and I'm going to try and run you through most of them as usual. A lot of people made some money last week, by the way. That's what this show is about. Giving you insight into the stock market and how you can make some money for yourself. Let that money work for you, man. As you're going to work, you're going to hustle. What is the money doing? Is it just sitting there in the bank doing nothing, or is it working for you? Well, that's what this show is about. And so a lot of stuff happening during the week, like I mentioned. But before I start, I was coming to the studio today and passing through, I was observing filling stations, and it's kind of interesting that there were very little queues. It looks like some of the filling stations that were shut over the weekend are reopened. Not really sure what the price is, but from what we're seeing in the news, at least from what I read in Nairametrics, looks like we're seeing fuel price of about 900 and something naira right here in Lagos. In some states, I've seen 1,000 naira plus for some states. So it's not the same price for everybody. I'm sure people are like 900, man. How are we going to cope with that? I mean, that's why you should really now focus on investing. That's really the message here. You got to focus on earning alternative income because things are about to get even rougher for a lot of us. And so, NPC is coming out and saying, look, it was because, I guess not because they also bought crude. They bought the petrol in dollars. It was priced in dollars because I think they sold to Dangote Refinery crude in dollars, and so that's why it's priced in dollars. So maybe by next month, like they're saying, it might be in naira. So, as Bukola said, someone put on social media, like, they are saying DM for price. So fuel is not DM for cost or for price. Anyways, that's what's happening on the macro level. But we all know that, this show is about investing. And so we're just going to look at what happened on the stock market last week. Yeah, so the all-share index rose by 1% to close September, the second week in September, on a positive note. So it looks like September is trying to correct some of the challenges we had in August, where the market closed negatively. So appears to be renewed momentum in the banking sector. There's a lot of stuff happening in the banking sector. Some public offers have been done and dusted, but looks like we're seeing some price uptick in the banking sector. And so the all-share index added 1,023 points and finished at 97,456, still off the 100,000 benchmark that we achieved sometime early this year. You guys always remember 100,000. That's usually key number to hit. 52 stocks gained last week, just to give you an idea of how bullish the stock market was last week compared to 36 the week before. 31 equities, of course, declined. So lower, of course, than 46 that we had the week before. So pretty much bullish week all around for the market. And we also noticed that volumes of trade also increased, because when volumes of trade increases, right, and prices go up, that's overall bullish sentiment. That means people are buying. Think about it. When the volume increases, that means there's a lot of transactions going on, and the average price or the average return is higher or is positive. Then it means people are in a bullish mode. People are willing to pay more for stocks, and that's basically what we noticed: 21% surge in volumes during the week. So pretty solid week for most stocks. And then, of course, we all had the indexes also do pretty well. The NGX Premium Index, which is the big boys index, that also gained 3% so far in the second week in September. And even the NGX 30 index, that's the index that has the most capitalized stocks, also did gain 0.82%. But the banking index, that's what basically drove everyone and drove the entire market, gained a whopping 5% last week. So pretty solid week for Nigerian stocks. And of course, who were the major gainers? I mean, there were some stocks that did better than every other stock. And you want to start with Caviton. Caviton was the best last week. And I'm going to speak about Caviton at some point during the show. Caviton gained 59.75 in 1 week. So, I mean, think about it, man. If you had like $1 million in Caviton, that like you just made, almost 600,000. Just your money doing the work for you, not you doing anything different. Your money is just working for you just because you just bought Caviton shares and you've gained 600,000. Someone was telling me to restart my newsletter, my Stock Select newsletter. Probably might consider doing that in the next quarter, so that you can always just put out some stocks there that you might want to look at and then see how you can earn. Because man, this country is about to get tougher for a lot of people if you don't position yourself well. I mean, I was speaking with someone last week and they told me, look, Ugo, as bad as things are, there are always opportunities. That's what I look at. When an economy is in this sort of state, all he sees are opportunities, because new billionaires, new millionaires are going to be minted as things get worse. That's just how capitalism works, and we're all in capitalism here in Nigeria. So, Caviton Helicopters, well done to you guys. You guys gained 59% last week. And of course, we also saw Alti Briscoe. They've been on the gainers list for a bit as well. They also gained 42%. Not really sure what's happening with that stock. It's a penny stock. I'm not going to put my money in it. Not because the company is not sound or they don't know what they're doing, but I don't really know. I can't really understand why it's gaining that much. So that kind of sounds to me like maybe a bull trap. But if you are that confident about Alti Briscoe, you might want to put your money in there. UPDC, another interesting stock that is into the real estate. So UPDC PLC, a real estate company. So one of those real estate companies that used to be owned by UAC. I think it's now majorly owned by Custodian. They also gained a whopping 36.9% last week. UPDC, essentially, it's in real estate. They own a lot of real estate properties across Nigeria. They make money by earning rental income from those properties and then selling some of them and making some good money. So that's the business that they're in, and they're one of the biggest out there. Probably not the largest in Nigeria, but one of the biggest, at least quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We'll be interested to see a lot more real estate companies come and list on the exchange. I mean, like, what's the point of having all these properties and all this development and you're not listed? I mean, you're kind of opaque, aren't you? Like, makes you a little bit opaque because we don't really know how you're funding it. But if you're on the exchange, then it's pretty clear how that is funded, and we can see a lot of clarity with your business. So UPDC was the third gainer. And then FBN Holdings, owners of First Bank, also made it into the top five, and by gaining 31.5% to close at 29 naira. So that makes up the top five last week. You can see most of them all gained 31% and above. So imagine if you had bought maybe First Bank or FBN at say, maybe you put like 1 million naira there, you're probably up with 350k. 10 million, 3.5 million. 100 million, 35 million. That's just the pure math, isn't it? So next time, that kind of tells me that there are opportunities somewhere for some frugal stocks. I'm not going to mention names, though. But you know what I mean. There are some frugal stocks that would typically rise in tandem with FBN Holdings. That's just how it works, because investors compare both price to earnings ratio. So if First Bank is rising, then you expect UBA Access to probably maybe rise in tandem. Did I just drop something there? I didn't do. Anyway, so go on to losers. Losers, of course, Len Africa topped the losers chart, dropping 22%. And Julius Berger, that has been on the tier for a while, also shed some gains, lost 17.89%. I guess investors are already taking profits of Julius Berger as one of the best performing stocks in Nigeria this year by all means. I think this year has been pretty good for Julius Berger because of a lot of the, the businesses they are getting from government. It looks like this government is favoring them a whole lot. And so investors are seeing that and rewarding Julius Berger with amazing share price increase. And there were also some announcement during the week. Zenith Bank extended its right issue and public offer. So if you haven't bought Zenith Bank shares yet, you might want to look in that direction. They have extended their right issue and public offer. UBA also reported a key change in his board of directors. You can catch that on Nairametrics. We did break that down there. Of course, GTCO released its Q2 financial statement. I'm going to talk about that in detail this show. And of course, Nigerian Flour Mills also passed some AGM resolutions. And Grief Nigeria PLC is also on its way to delisting from the exchange. They give an update on their voluntary winding up process. All right, so what else happened during the week? Treasury bills. That's also something that we talk about here often on this show. Remember I talked about it last week that there was going to be Treasury bill sale, and I said, look, don't miss out on that opportunity because it doesn't happen all the time, especially those interest rates that you see. And so last week, of course, more Treasury bills were sold. What is interesting is that it was oversubscribed as always. Nigerians poured in over about 539 billion against the 150 billion that the CBN was looking for, especially for the 1 year bill. So oversubscription for the 1 year bill. But what were the rates? That's really what we're interested in. So for the 91-day bill, like if you had given them money for 91 days, they will offer you 16.63% per annum. Of course, you got to divide that by 4 so that you know how much you earn for 90 days. And that's what they did. And that was lower than the 17% at the previous auction. You see, I told you guys that it's dropping already, right? Because, I mean, we're getting to where it looks like inflation is falling, so it's dropping. And then 182 days, that's 6 months, that also fell to 17% from 17.5%. So if you're going to keep your money with them for 6 months, they're going to offer you 17% per annum. So you got to divide that by 2 to get an idea of what you get. So if you put maybe 10 million in that treasury bill, you're probably going to get roughly 1.7% per annum, but you got to divide that by 2. So that comes to maybe 700 or 800 bucks or thereabout, right? Now, 800K or thereabout. Then for the 364-day bill, that's 1 year, that has now fallen to about 18.59% from 18.94%. I mean, let's be clear, there's something called true yield. Because the central bank pays you interest upfront, your return is probably even higher than that. I mean, if you calculate the return because you're getting your money upfront. So that 18.9% might translate to about 22, 23% or thereabout in terms of true yield. But in terms of just straight up return, 18.9%, 18.59% is what you're paying for the 364-day bill. So it's dropping. Remember, it used to be 23% flat for the bill. So, I mean, if you had bought earlier in the early auctions last quarter and 2 quarters ago, earlier in the year, it was about 20-something%. So it's falling already. So Treasury bills is falling. So what that kind of also means is that when Treasury bills is falling, you could see a lot of movement in the equities market because people now cycle funds out of the equities market. So I'm dropping another gem for you now. So you got to start taking position. And then finally, before we go to go for a short break, Nigerian dollar bond. I did mention that on this show as well. Nigerian dollar bond subscription results were out last week. I'm sure you probably must have read that as well on Nairametrics. The government wanted to sell $500 million in that bond, but Nigerians ended up buying or subscribing 900 million. So like subscription was almost double what they wanted, and the interest rate was 9.75%. I don't know if you bought it, but I hope you did get it if you have dollars, because there's no point keeping your dollars idle. If you have $10,000 or $20,000, and that gets you 9.75%. So $10,000 for $975 in interest, I don't think that's a bad deal, especially when you look at where exchange rate is today. And of course, if you have maybe dollar payments to make next year, then at least you get $1,000, close to $1,000 that you can use for whatever it is that you want. So it's not a bad deal at all. But it's closed already. I guess the government is looking to do another one. They did mention that this is just the first round, so there's probably going to be another one. Back gist I'm also hearing is that there were a lot of institutional subscriptions. So I think it was mostly institutional subscriptions more than retail that really drove this to the sort of oversubscription levels that we've seen. So interesting things there on the market side. We're going to take a short break in a bit, and I'm going to talk about some major, gainers, some stocks that really hit notes during the week. And of course, GTCO gave us a blistering result last week. I'm going to try and break that down when I'm back.
Stocks are still the one to beat. Still got to beat Nigerian stocks. Happy to invest in the economy.
Really understand the difference between band A and B and C and D and all that stuff.
Are you interested in the heartbeat of Nigeria's economy? Join us every Monday morning on Classic 97.3 FM from 8 to 8:30 a.m. on Follow the Money with Ugo Dre as he delves into the dynamic world of finance, offering insight, analysis, and expert commentary on the latest trends shaping the Nigerian economy, or catch up on your favorite podcast platform. Follow the Money with Ugo Dre is brought to you by Nairametrics, creating wealth through information.
You are now listening to Follow the Money with Ugo Dre in partnership with United Bank for Africa.
UBA, they give everybody 75 reasons to jolly this season for the UBA Legacy promo. Over 200 million naira don't day where people go win. 75 people get chance to win 1 million naira and even more. Just open UBA savings account. Come save at least 5,000 naira inside every month to qualify. The more you save, the more you go win. Just go www.ubagroup.com or dial *919*20#. Make you for start. Terms and conditions dey. UBA, Africa's global bank.
You're listening to Follow the Money with Ugo Dre.
Yes, you're listening to Follow the Money, brought to you by Nairametrics in partnership with UBA. My name is Ugo Dre, and we do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30. And of course, you can catch any previous episode, including this one, on any podcast platform. Just go there, search for Nairametrics, Follow the Money, and you can get this podcast. Of course, we've got several other podcasts that we do on Nairametrics. There's Everyday Money Matters. That's a personal finance show. You might want to check that out as well. Pretty interesting. You get a lot of banters there. Just regular people talking about money, money issues that could concern you. Always on Wednesdays, and we always have podcast versions as well. That is also on radio. All right, so we're back to the show. So there were some major gainers last week that I want to talk about. Custodian investment. During the week, we just noticed the share price hit a 52-week high. That's like a 1-year high. When it gained about over 25% at 14 naira per share. And so we try to dig deep to find out what exactly is driving custodian investment. I mean, always difficult to really know the real reason, but we can only, as much as possible, guess. And it kind of looks like a number of things is happening. Remember that FBN Holdings announced that they had sold one of their companies, one of the FBN Quest companies, not the main FBN Quest Asset Management, one of the FBN Quest Merchant Bank. Yeah, that's what it is, FBN Quest Merchant Bank. They had sold it to a consortium led by Custodian Investment, and it looks like investors kind of like what they saw, and then the share price kind of catapulted to a 1-year high. Of course, I did mention UPDC also gaining heavily during the week, and that is also another company related to custodian investment. So Custodian seems to be doing a lot of stuff with their money. It's an insurance company, but they have moved from just being a regular insurance company to being an investment company where they acquire companies and have stakes in several companies that also means money for them. And so the share price rose to a 52-week high. Of course, it did drop eventually to 13 naira from 14 naira. I think it lost 9% towards the end of the week, but still a pretty strong number as it is. Of course, Custodian also announced interim dividend of 15 kobo per share. So maybe that might also be one of the reasons why the share price did well during the week. And of course, Caverton Offshore Support, that's a helicopter company based in Lagos here and operating mostly in the Niger Delta regions and the oil regions, also did a very good number during the week. They also gained heavily. In fact, they gained 65% year to date so far. One of the major reasons perhaps driving this might also be a deal that they announced recently with Explomar to integrate, over plans to integrate electric outboard engines into their marine ferries. So I guess investors like that deal because they kind of think that's going to boost the top line of that company. And so the share price kind of rose during the day. And of course, I also mentioned FBN. I think I mentioned that earlier. First Bank share price, FBN Holdings share price also rose 30% during the week. So those were the major gainers on our watch list that we saw last week. Yeah, and then GTCO, one of the Fuga's banks released their result last week, and a lot of Nigerians were pretty shocked that a bank was making 1 trillion naira in pre-tax profit. That's just incredible, man. 1 trillion naira. But but if you kind of like put that in dollar terms, not as much as you would think in dollar terms, but hey, that's what they made. 1 trillion naira, first bank to hit that kind of number for half-year results. That's the first. I kind of think that the likes of Zenith, UBA, and FBN Holdings are probably going to hit that number anytime soon as well, perhaps next year. And they will hit that number with the way that they are also growing. But what was behind GT's result? Interest income was up 176% to 336 billion. That's what they made on lending alone. Lending, and of course, investment in Treasury Bills. They made 336 billion naira from that. That's basically sweating their assets. And of course, net interest income, by the time you take away the cost of the deposits, it's 264 billion, which is 177%. So just imagine how much money this bank is making. And in terms of commissions and fees, commissions from COT, commissions from transactions and deals, they made 44.8 billion from there. This is 3 quarters, or not half year, 3 quarters alone, 3 months alone is what I'm saying. That's what they made in 3 months. So even the net interest income of 264 billion was in 3 months. Yeah. And of course, net commission and fees, 3 months, 48 billion, returning 126%. And of course, other income, which includes money they made from trading, foreign currency swaps, derivatives, and a little bit of FX in there. They made 305 billion. You want me to repeat it? 305 billion. That's what they made. And it was actually a 15% drop, by the way. So, quarter on quarter. So, GT Bank flying out there. And of course, pre-tax profit for the quarter was 494 billion. So, if you add that to what they made in the first quarter of this year, it takes the entire number to 1 trillion in terms of the total pre-tax profit that they've made. So GT Bank's total deposits is currently 10.2 trillion naira. That's what they have. And then loans and advances is 3.1 trillion naira. So they have actually a lot more deposits than the loans that they've given out. So probably, sweating out their loans, investing in a lot of risk-free assets like Treasury Bills and all that. So giving them a lot of money in there. And of course, net assets currently is 2.3 trillion, 96% up. Earnings per share, 16 naira per share. So that is GT Bank numbers as we see it in the second quarter of this year. So blistering results here. So if you want to, I have an entire podcast dedicated to this particular results. You want to check it on my money brief on Nairametrics as well, where I try to break down how do I able to make this sort of profit and why. I also see the likes of UBA and GT and Zenith, even First Bank, being in the mix sometime soon. So, when banks make this sort of money, this is opportunity for you to position yourself and make that money too yourself. All right. So what else happened during the week? There was gist from NASD. A lot of issues going on in NASD, trying to figure out what the problem is with that company. So NASD is an alternative to the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and they essentially list companies that are not, quoted, right? So if you have a private company and you wanted to list, one of the exchanges that you can go to is the NASD. So if you go to the NASD, you can always list your company there, and your shareholders can perhaps go there and find buyers, people that might want to buy those shares. So don't always think that, if you had shares in a company, you can't be able to sell it. In fact, you don't even need, if I recall, you don't even need the approval of that company to go and list on NASD. All you need to do is just go to NASD and tell them, look, I have 100,000 shares in XYZ company. I want to sell it. Can I come and sell it here? And then you can just put it in that market, and then you find a buyer. So it's essentially an alternative market for stocks that are not listed. But over the years, they've been having some challenges. They haven't really been growing as much as some of their shareholders think that they should be growing. So one of the major shareholders there, VFD, put out a statement last week, essentially criticizing how the company is being run at the moment, and we're asking for a lot of changes, innovation, and see how they can boost their top and bottom line. We did pick up that story at Nairametrics, and I just want to read some of the things that they said here. So it says VFD is advocating for NASD to adapt to evolving market demands, particularly from younger tech-savvy investors. The investment firm believes NASD must capitalize on alternative investment trends that appeal to its demographic. It also pointed out NASD's current business model is outdated, and has failed to deliver the expected returns. Adding to his concerns, VFD highlighted inconsistencies in the governance of NASD, specifically around re-election of directors. That kind of gives you an idea of what the problem really is. This might really be an issue with how the board is being structured. Perhaps governance issues is even the major underlying issues that VFD has with NASD. And VFD also noted that newer board members were up for re-election while longer 7 directors remained. I really don't understand how that. I mean, if this is true, then that's concerning. How do you have new board members expected to retire, and then you have existing board members still remaining? Like, what exactly is the governance here? Like, how is this structured? Like, why should it be that way? I mean, I thought that directors typically have tenures. Is it now an everlasting portfolio, like everlasting, appointment that you can't leave? So interesting to see why that's happening. Of course, NASD MD also gave a response, which Nairametrics also picked up. The managing director, Egwarekide Longe, also responded, and he said he's a very highly respected guy. He said that this is a struggle for control rather than a push for genuine change. Longe also acknowledged the pressure of NASD to perform, but emphasized the complexity of running a market infrastructure platform, particularly one that does not rely on compulsory listing fees, unlike its peers in the debt capital market. He argued that NASD has made consistent efforts to expand its value proposition and that no idea for growth, including those from VFD, has been turned down. The real issue is not resistance to change. It's the natural challenges of transforming a restricted market, Longe wrote. He also pointed to a trust deficit and a superiority complex among some stakeholders. I mean, so that's the back and forth. We're tracking this. But look, for me, I really don't get why you should have NASD underperform this much. This organization has been around for years, and a lot of Nigerians don't even know it exists. They don't even know what it does, right? And in this same market, we've had startups raise millions and millions of dollars and from investors locally and internationally. And you have a lot of Nigerian investors who have money in startups that's locked in. They don't even know how to get their money out. Why don't you go to these guys and have them list on the NAS? Like, I just think it's a little bit of an archaic organization. I might be too critical, but I just think so. This is me just being neutral here. I don't know what it does. And now we have crypto exchanges that have recently been registered by SEC. You're going to see how these guys are going to essentially transform this market. In fact, now that crypto exchanges are on, is even a larger risk to the NGX, because at the end of the day, what you're all looking for is transactions, right? And if a lot of Gen Zs and young Nigerians move towards crypto exchanges, then what's going to happen to the likes of NASD, and how are they thinking of innovating? So I think that they gotta innovate. They probably need a fresh approach to things. Perhaps maybe governance issues is also a major thing that they need to address. Who knows? Maybe we'll get the MD of NASD on the show sometime soon to come and tell us what exactly they plan to do over the next coming months, if not years. All right, guys, that has been Follow the Money this week. Like I said, it's a bumper week. I know it's a holiday for you guys, but of course, you can always listen to the show on any podcast platform. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Again, I remain Ugo Dre, and we do this every Monday, 8 to 8:30 on this show, brought to you by Nairametrics in partnership with UBA. Do have a beautiful and profitable week ahead. Peace.